India, he also conducts Indian Sommelier Championship, the most definitive platform for sommeliers across India. Mr. Singh is also the founder of India's first accredited Institute of Wine and Beverage Studies. Let him give a warm welcome. Welcome, Mr. Magandeep Singh.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sachin.
Thank you. And also, let me introduce our second guest, our speaker, Mr. Gagan Sharma. Mr. Gagan Sharma is a multi-talented personality. He's a certified sommelier, a mixologist, a judge, a travel and trade writer, and a wine educator with an experience of over 10 years. His education backgrounds include numerous international certifications from USA, UK, and Australia. His interests are traveling, and I believe he's a Limca book record holder for the same. Okay, the other interest is mountaineering and paragliding. He's an avid reader, a writer, and also well-versed with Urdu. Presently, he's the managing director of Institute of Wine and Beverage Studies in India. He has received international recognition in Italy, Spain, Hungary, Austria, Australia, and Hong Kong. We are honored by your presence, sir, and I'm sure we're going to learn from you. Let's give him a warm welcome. So from here, I would request Mr. Magandeep Singh and Mr. Gagan Sharma to take us through the journey of being a sommelier and educate our students and also us of how to actually take this webinar forward in educating people to be a sommelier, and all over to you, sir. I request you to take over the webinar from here. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sachin. Thanks, Finance. Hi, all of you. It's really great for us to be here, but it's really sad that we have to do it in a format where Gagan and I can't see all of you face to face. Nevertheless, our cameras are on, so you know that we are not putting on a recording. This is all live and we're doing it for you. And thus, each time we do this, it is as much fun. Keep your mics and mute, guys, that'll be useful. So today we're going to talk about the idea of sommellerie and who is exactly a sommelier. We want to talk about the who, what, and how of a sommelier is. So let's start first with the word sommelier. Who exactly is a sommelier? Let me tell you a very quick thing on the side. When I came back to India and I started writing with then what was called Brunch was just launching, and Veer Sanghi took me into the editorial room and he introduced me to the editor of Brunch and told them that I'm a sommelier. And later they asked him that why don't I sound African? Because they thought the word was Somalian and they didn't know what the word sommelier was. So I'm talking almost 2 decades back when people would have thought that a sommelier is a person from Africa. And fast forward to today that you in your first year or when you're joining the industry already know what a sommelier is and what you want to do with it. So if I ask you who is a sommelier, wine and serve the wine is called a wine waiter, and we all think that's what a sommelier does. But think of it this way, is that all look at these activities. So you've got a person will come and put a nice fancy glass in front of you. She's checked the glasses. You'll have the wine brought to you, which will be at the right temperature, identified the label and the vintage. And then the sommelier will proceed to open the bottle at the table, preferably with a wine opener, a very pretty one over there that you can see, the Chateau Laguiole. But tell me something, is that all that a sommelier does? Could that not all these, could not all these the duties of a sommelier that need to be considered? So it is not just a wine waiter. It is a very limited definition to say that a sommelier is a wine waiter. In fact, you have to think of sommelier in a new term. So unlearn the fact that the sommelier is just a wine waiter. And let's move ahead from here and see what comes our way. Slide, please. Here's the picture. I think we all imagine swanky, bespoke suits and having wine and hosting evenings, but it might take a few months right now. But this gentleman here, if you look at him, he looks like, you know, he could be a corporate head honcho, he could be an entrepreneur, could be working for Elon Musk's SpaceX, we can't tell, but he's actually a sommelier. He's Andres Larsen, he was one of the world's best sommeliers, I think few years back. Gagan knows the year exactly, and handled some of those prestige lists in the Nordic countries before he moved to the UK. From Gagan, is my connection stable? Because I'm getting a message.
I can hear you properly.
Okay. Okay, fine. So guys, there's always been this whole conversation that a sommelier is just a wine waiter. Well, look at it this way, expand your horizons. A chef cooks. If you were wearing a chef coat or a chef uniform, you walked into the restaurant space, people will not ask you whether you are the saucier or the garde manger. You are just a chef and you take care of everything. So you need to know everything. The same way a mixologist, whether you're behind the bar stacking the shelves or making the drinks, to the guest, you're the same one person. So if you take away the chefs and the mixologists from the equation, it leaves the servers who will physically move the food and the beverage. But for every other beverage sale, if you're selling not just a Pinot Noir or a Riesling, but even if you talk about old fashions or a whiskey on the rocks, and you get for that moment, it is the job of a sommelier as a much bigger role in the restaurant F&B space. Moving on. So we know that now, we know we know who a sommelier is, but now let's come to the next question, which will really matter is, what is a sommelier? How do you define what makes a sommelier a sommelier? And going ahead, slight change. And so here's a very simple way to look at it. If you can eat it, drink it, smoke it, serve it, you need to know it. It's okay. So smoking might happen a bit outdoors, but you still need to know your cigar knowledge on the back of your hand. You need to know anything that's a comestible, which you can eat, anything that is in a liquid form, which is safe to drink. You need to know about them. So it's not just enough to go up to a guest's table and say, I know wines, but don't ask me about single malt. Don't ask me about whiskey or rum or vodka. Just ask me about wines. That is not a sommelier. And same with the food, because if the guest wants advice on how to pair it, you will have to be the person informed enough about those things. Smoke it, but if not smoke it, then can you serve it on the table? Can you bring it up at the table and make it available to the guest? In which case, you will need to know it intensely and intently. And that's where this is what we've inculcated as a philosophy with the Indian Sommelier Championship. And I think going ahead, Gagan's got that same idea with the Young Sommeliers Olympiad, that if you can eat, drink, or serve, you need to know about it. So moving on, guys. Here's some fun questions. I wish we could do this live with all of you seeing, and we would love to see the reactions on your faces. You're seeing a vineyard here. You're seeing clouds. What else can you read from this picture? Let's all play Sherlock Holmes for a bit. There's the tree. It's a hill. The vineyards are planted along the slope of the hill. They are spaced maybe about a meter 6 apart. The tree looks fairly old. The sky is overcast. It could be dawn or dusk. We can't tell because it's black and white. This picture could be any vineyard in the world. Could be India, could be Portugal, could be America. So just by looking at a vineyard, you don't know what vineyard you're looking at. So that makes it tough. Whereas when you look at blue glazed pottery, you know exactly which country it might come from. When you look at those blue azul tiles, you know they're Portuguese. But with a vineyard, it's not very easy to look at it and tell where in the world it might be. If you move on to the next picture, you'll see a bunch of grapes now. And these grapes could be any grape. Okay, imagine a regular wine list in a hotel or a city, and you have about 100 grapes being used to make wines that make it to that list. 300 are used across the world more commonly. There are about 100,000 grapes that used to make wine. So just try and wrap your head around that. And you're just seeing one bunch here. So if you gonna me to guess what it is, we'll try and gauge from the leaf and say maybe it's dark, it's Cabernet or Syrah or so on. So we'll make guesses, but in which vineyard is it hanging, what time of the year it is, we can't be exactly precise about that. And once you've got the grapes, you will move the vineyard to the next slide. You will see that in this, to the winery, in the cellars when the wine's aging in barrels, you can just look at the shapes and the sizes. And this cellar might be humid space, there's fungus on the walls. But so remember, from the vineyard to the grape to the cellars, everything is a variable in this equation. And as a sommelier, you need to learn all those variables and all the permutations and combinations. So which wine exists in which vineyard and which grape is used and how is it aged in the cellar? That combination you need to remember. And all these things come out, then comes the way of the consumer. So this lady sitting here at diner, is she coming? Is she leaving? Is she ordering something? Is she about to order? Has she already ordered? Is she waiting for someone? Is she in a hurry? Is someone else late? All these things are important. Is she celebrating something or is she anxious? You need to read the guest. management and do modern genius, because you need so many more skills than just a regular server or a chef to get these things together, because you are the interface between the back end and the front end, between the food and the drink, and you need to read the mood amongst all of this. So that pretty much sums up the story of a modern genius. Other skills that you need to have to be a sommelier, very quickly to sum up, would be you need to be a time traveler. You need to know about, how and when, what style of wine was made. You need to bring a sparkling wine format and bring it to the guest. So you have to make the feel as real as you imagine it in your head. You need to be a historian. You need to know not just the history of things around you, but the history of certain wines. You need to be able to talk about vintages. You need to talk about grapes and seasons, and when winemakers shifted and changed hands, when someone made the first vintage of wine. So you need to know history and travel back in time to make people feel able to beat these very technical things sometimes into stories that the consumer will understand. You need to speak the language of your client and not the language that is in some book. Because if you speak the bookish language, I'd rather read the book. So that is the modern genius that is a sommelier today, and is not it's a very tall order. It's not a short call to really get around. So it's not just about being a wine waiter. It's about being a lot more than that. And with that, I think, Gagan, I'm going to hand over to you.
Right. So, this is the reason why we always say that a sommelier is a very complex term. It's not a career, it's a way of life. Just reading somewhere that while the World War was going on, when you make a glass bottle, you need to use copper. And all the copper was used in tanks to make brandies and whiskeys. They were taken away to make artilleries out of those tanks. And now, if in case there was a wine fraud that happened, that a person sold a bottle of a French wine for millions and millions of dollars, and later on they were told that the wine of this year cannot have a green bottle, because to make a green bottle you need to have copper, and the World War was on. And in those years, nobody had a green bottle. So this wine is a fake. So I think that's what we mean when we say you were supposed to be a historian. You need to know all of these stories. But of course, it just adds more charm to your career. Not that if you don't know this story, you can't be a good sommelier. So, eventually what it comes down to is, yeah, it's a good career. You're still in the hospitality scope. But at the end of the day, how much money are you taking back home? What is going to be the moolah, the salary? Because everybody is doing hotel management and the same that you do after your graduation is going to sit there is that the sommelier is one of the biggest money makers for an organization, be it a hotel or a restaurant. And how do we do that? Let's look at that. In hospitality in general, I'm not saying this is written in safety. In case you are earning 10,000 rupees as salary, I, as your hotel or a restaurant owner, would expect to bring 10 times the revenue of your salary. So if your salary is 10,000 rupees, I expect you to bring about ₹1,00,000 in revenue. Out of that ₹1,00,000, 80% should be pure profit. Now, do remember, look at it as 90% profit. If in case you can bring lesser revenue, then we would, an organization might put you into a corner where you cannot really earn revenue. For example, banquets. It's already pre-sold. Everything is predetermined. Now, if you want to think the calculation of it, let's say we buy a bottle of wine for 2,000 rupees in Mumbai at a Taj or an Oberoi or ITC, Leela, whichever hotel you select. That bottle, let's say, sells for 10,000 rupees. It takes you 1 day to sell that bottle. One table, you go, you propose the bottle, they buy it, and you make a profit of 8,000 rupees by just selling one bottle. 1 day, one bottle sold, and you earn 8,000 rupees as pure profit. Let's move to the spirit side of the business. You buy a, let's say, a spirit for 2,000 rupees, let's say a bottle of gin or a whiskey or rum, whichever one. At 30 ml a peg, you get 25 pegs to make a 750 ml bottle. A peg sells for 600 rupees, you make revenue of 1,500, and in total you make a profit of 13,000 rupees on a bottle of spirit. But in general, it is noted that beyond a certain price point, a bottle takes approximately 23 days to dry. And do remember, 7 days are off in a month, so basically it takes you in a way an entire month to sell that bottle. So basically what we are saying is you pay 2,000 rupees, make a profit of 8,000 rupees on a bottle of wine, but you do that in 1 day. Make more profit on a bottle of spirit, but you take 23 days to do that. So eventually, if this is the rate by which we were to go, in 23 days, you will earn a profit of 13,000 rupees by selling spirits, but you will make a profit of almost 2 lakh rupees by selling wines. And now if in case you were to put that into the formula, you would automatically understand the revenue is more, where the salary would be more as well. If 13,000 rupees is your profit, then of course you can understand your salary would be lesser as compared to as close as 2 lakh rupees of revenue. So do you want to be in the spirit only section or do you want to be in the wine section? Also remember, no guest would ever, not all the guests at least would come to the bar and order a drink. They would still require somebody to suggest what drink they should get. Should they get a smoky whiskey? How smoky should it be? Should it be an Indian whiskey or scotch or something else? How do they drink that? What do they eat with that? Etc. etc. What food to have? What balsamic vinegar? What cheese? What bread to have, etc. All of those revenue outlets are basically controlled by a server. And here what we are saying is a sommelier is a super server who not only moves plates from the kitchen entry to the guest table and back, but also makes a lot of sale. So now comes the question, why should we? Cool, I mean, it's a good career, but why should we do it? So the first thing is, it is one of those professions within the hospitality realm where the demand of this profession is more than the supply. Let's just understand this, that there are about 152 lakh in India. Do you think there are as many jobs for a housekeeping professional, a chef, a front office a professional, or even a server? You go to a hotel, a good 5-star hotel, how many people would be there in the front office team? Maybe 20. How many people would be there in a restaurant service team, in a single restaurant service team? Another 20, 25, depending on the size of it. How many sommeliers would be there in the restaurant? Probably 1, maybe 2. So the point is, the trouble here is that we might have, let's say, 1,000 F&B outlets where, hotels and restaurants put together where sommeliers are required. How many certified sommeliers are there in the country? I think less than 20, 30, 40 maybe. So of course, the demand for a sommelier, a trained beverage professional is more. And of course, where the demand is more and the supply is less, your market value goes up and your salary automatically goes up. If you were to say today from ANJUMAN-I-ISLAM, when you graduate, how many people will graduate? Let's say 200 people in a batch. How many of them want to be chef? How many of them want to be in front office? How many of them want to be a beverage professional? I think you would know the proportion of that. The other good thing is that, maybe to learn Japanese cuisine, you might have to travel to Japan at some point in time. To learn Italian cuisine better, you might have to go to Italy at some point in time. But alcohol is a language which can be spoken anywhere and it can be learned anywhere. A whiskey will remain a whiskey, a gin will remain a gin, a wine will remain a wine, a martini will remain a martini, no matter where in the world you are. So this is one language that can be spoken anywhere and it can be learned anywhere. And of course, it can be learned in India as well. And I think our third musketeer, Sahil, who's also there on the chat, he's a great example of it. He graduated from IHMCT. He's been in the industry for, I think, 3 years, and he's a certified sommelier working with us. He never left the country, but he is one of the most respected certified sommeliers in the country. And the bigger thing is, it's no more a taboo, depending on your gender, depending on your English spoken skills, depending on what heritage you follow, it doesn't matter. Do we have lady sommeliers in the country? Yes, we do. Do we have very old gentlemen or ladies as professionals in the country? Yes, we do. Do we have lady winemakers, distillers, brewers? Yes. So of course, it's no more a taboo to be working in the alcohol industry. I remember when I came back from Australia 10, 12 years ago, my sister was getting married and her family to be asked, what does your youngest son do? They say he works in wine, but we don't know what he does. But now, of course, I don't know if they still understand this, the language of sommellerie, but definitely it's not something that they have to shy away from. But minus what you take in your account at the end of the month is one part of it. But there are other pleasures that come to your, come as a part of your profession. First one is that you're paid to study, be it international certifications or even otherwise. As Sachin also mentioned, Magan and I, we have traveled our share and we are paid to travel as well. Of course, we don't get hard cash, but flight, accommodation, food, everything is paid for. But the most important thing, if you come to the bottom of the chart, is you're paid with good company. As Mr. Sachin also said, Magan was amongst maybe the only 10 people in this world's second biggest population to meet the president of France when he came to India. A few days ago, before the lockdown, we guys were tasting whiskey with Kapil Dev. I'm pretty sure everybody knows that. And I think that in itself becomes such a important bragging right, that you were sharing the table, not that you were serving the table, but you were sitting on the table, sipping the same stuff or talking about the same liquid in the glass. And that in itself becomes such a big pleasure. So, we do the competition, as Magan also said. And as we always say, sommelier is not just a wine waiter, it's more than that. So in the 6th Indian Sommelier Championship, Pankaj won the competition. And today he doesn't work with wines. He doesn't work at a restaurant or hotel. He is the brand ambassador for Monkey Shoulder whiskey in the country. And there's only one brand ambassador for this brand in the country right now. And it is this gentleman who can be called a sommelier, but he works with whiskey and cocktails now. The other person is Atul Tiwari, who is now very close to your, your college at Oberoi, Mumbai. He is now the F&B manager. When he won the competition, he was just a server at a restaurant at Leela Hotel. Soon he became a captain, assistant restaurant manager, assistant F&B manager, and an F&B manager in the last 5 years by just training himself in this skill, in this art of sommelier. Harish, I'm pretty sure you guys know him. He is an alumni of your prestigious organization. And he now is the brand ambassador for Bacardi. And he has worked at Four Seasons, at the table. He has been the beverage manager for the entire chain. And now he is working for Bacardi as a brand ambassador. Prateek, again, very close to your institute, works now as a sommelier and a beverage manager. He got drunk on the stage one at the first ISC that he ever competed at. Second time he came second, and the third time he came back and he just ruled the stage like nobody else has. Now he is the beverage manager for the Table Group. The Table Group was the only restaurant in the country to have won the Wine Spectator List award this year. So he is the man behind it. Abbas is the beverage manager. Again, he was a server. Devati, again, a winner of the competition. Now she is the brand manager for an entire wine estate called Charisma Estate, which yesterday won the only Indian winery to have won the award for the best vineyards in the world. Anushka this year won, again, a smart lady from Mumbai. She used to work with us at one time. Then she went to a wine import company. And now she is the sommelier for ITC Maratha Sheraton. So what you can see is there are brand ambassadors for spirits. There are beverage managers. There are brand managers for wine estates. There are sommeliers. That is what you end up being. Now, if the question comes, how do you become a sommelier? Various ways are there. There are various certifications, WSET, CMS, all of these are there. But then there are other ways. So, for example, our institute, which is IWPS, even if you don't do the course, there are other ways of doing that as well, rather than you putting your money and learning it. As I said, you can be paid to study as well. And one of those ways is either, if you're under the age of 21, come and compete at the Young Sommelier Olympiad, which this year will be announced next week. I'll share the information with Kainas, and it'll be great to have some of you guys competing as well. No tastings, no nothing. 15 master classes first provided to you. So we will first teach you. Then we will quiz you. You will further with scholarships, and then we'll make you compete with the big boy game of informal exam. So all these guys, all 6 of them that you saw, once they won the Sommellerie championship, their passport was stamped, and Pankaj and Atul, I think, start learning today. And they see called the fee payment, and you get the access for the course, and eventually this is how you study. So these are all pre-recorded sessions between Magan and I. There are quizzes to everything. There is an entire handbook that you can download, which is your study material, and then you get learning. So eventually, even without tasting, even without swirling a glass, you could still be a sommelier. The job of a sommelier, again, do remember, is not to taste alcohol, but to serve alcohol and make money. Eventually, we guys are salesmen at the end of it, just not wearing a waiter's jacket, but a nice suit and a tie. If you still ask, yeah, I mean, if somebody is interested, they can be a sommelier. Why should I be a sommelier? Well, I think it's a simple idea. Do it for yourself. You do not have to start your career with 15,000, 20,000 rupees salary. You can start with 40,000 to begin with. You do not have to go into the whole game of getting selected as a management trainee or going abroad and doing an MBA. You can do everything without being in that rat race as a standalone proposition of being a sommelier in the country, in your city today. Do you want to be lifting those big clearance trays and working for 12 hours, 14 hours? Or do you want to wear a nice suit and be talking to the guest from day one? It is completely on to you. I mean, if somebody told me this, 15, 16 years ago when I did my hotel management, I would have said, yeah, I want to be a sommelier. The good thing is I knew when I was in my 9th standard that this is the profession I'm going to select, and I stuck by it. Oh, by the way, shaving your hair is not a part of being a sommelier, but it's a good journey. So join us. We'll be more than happy to take you through the journey. Having said that, I would want to show you how the course looks on the inside. So I don't know if my screen is still shared or not, but yeah. So once you are in the program, as I said, you can download the study material, which is a 120-page handbook, and then select a chapter, go on to it. Once you have, once you've selected which one you want to study, and this is how the videos look.
Gagan, we can still see the cheers screen.
We can't see that screen.
We can't see the screen that you're on.
Okay.
So you'll have to go back and then do a
I have
re-screen
to
share.
stop share and share again?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right. That's
okay. All right. Okay. So welcome back. And this time we will be talking about some of the international. So I think now you can see that, right?
Yes.
So these are how the chapters look. You can always go in there. You can select which one you want to study. And these are pre-recorded sessions where we have the presentations. And of course, Magan and I have recorded the sessions. At the end of it, we don't just let you go away. There are certain books that we suggest. There is a link to the website, which we give you as a part of your course, a subscription to it, so that your learning continues. What should you learn further? You can of course go and ask for your certificate, and we guys can issue that to you. So yeah, phew, spoken too much.
Sachin, would you like to take it forward?
I think Sachin is muted.
I'm so sorry. I didn't notice. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Magandeep Singh and Mr. Gagan Sharma. It was wonderful, wonderful session. But there are a few doubts and few questions which I personally received. Mr. Magan?
Absolutely, yeah, please.
Uh, um, Mr. Magandeep, the first question that usually students ask, or usually that would come in, is what is the difference between a winemaker and a sommelier?
Mm.
And how do we qualify, or what are the courses, or maybe qualification to be a winemaker, or and what's the difference between a winemaker and sommelier? Generally, these questions are been asked by the students very often.
I would try and think of it like the difference between between an architect and an interior designer. They work on a similar concept, but they don't do the same thing. So a winemaker is a science, chemistry, lots of reactions. You need to understand how microorganisms work. So it's biochemistry actually. And once you know all those things and you apply them, that's how you make wine. And you need experience to hone those skills. A sommelier, on the other hand, will work with the finished product, which is not just wine, but also could be whiskeys, could be beers, could be any beverage under the, under the sky. And then you will get that, and you'll have to figure out how to do two things. One is sell it for the organization or shop where you're working. The other is sell it to the person who'd be happy consuming it. So you have to make those two connections, in the right beverage for the right shop, and then the right beverage for the right consumer. Sure. The sommelier does the front-end logistical movement of the beverage, if you wish. The winemaker merely makes it. And the winemaker will make it as per his or her understanding, philosophy, experience, choice. And then when they put it out there, then the sommelier takes it and tries to interpret that and translate it for the consumer. So for being a sommelier, knowing, as Gagan said, the list of books, you can be an arts major, commerce major, and then if you have the knack, you can be a sommelier. But to be a winemaker, if you don't have a science background, it's going to set you back by 2-3 years.
Okay.
I think Gagan also knows about that, because in Australia, he tried to he did a master's in mixed. I thought of winemaking at one point, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. After my graduation, I wanted to, further continue with my studies, and to be a winemaker, or get yourself enrolled in a oenology program, you need to have 1 year of college level chemistry as a bare minimum. And I was a commerce graduate, so of course I didn't. So otherwise I would have been making some crappy wines today.
That's great.
Yeah. But was your question about a winemaker and a sommelier, or a wine waiter?
What is the difference? What was the difference between a winemaker and a sommelier?
Winemaker, okay.
Winemaker and a sommelier. That was the question that usually people ask.
Right.
And few question was like, is it difficult to crack the introductory course of to be a sommelier? What are the qualifications, and is it difficult to crack the introductory course in case if student wants to start the course right from the first year, or maybe from the second year once they start with the beverage studies? If you can just educate us on the same.
All yours.
Yeah. So which introductory course are we talking about? Because there are various.
Maybe let's say, for example, WSET. That's actually very common these days among all the colleges and the institute. And the other important thing is, do they really have to go abroad to actually be a good sommelier, or is it possible to do the qualification, or maybe the degree, or maybe achieve or become a good sommelier in India as well?
So Sachin, there are two things. First thing is the WSET level 1 is the initial wine stud qualification, any that you would see, is designed to give you some building blocks. So, unless, as they also say that in hospitality as well, you have to try very hard to fail. Your heart should really not be there to not be able to cut a Jardinier versus a Brunoise and all of that stuff. So, of course, baking a bread roll is all completely different. But then, they are basically courses that are, that are designed to give you a building block, and second, they are courses that are, also a good way to test waters. Is it really something that you are interested in? So the first level of any course, any study would never push you to test yourself.
Okay.
It's never going to be very difficult. So I don't think it is going to be it's going to be a challenge. That is one. The other question that you had was, do you have to go abroad to be a sommelier? Definitely not. Absolutely not. Maybe yes. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, maybe yes. But now definitely not. Sahil, as I said, works with us. He graduated from his college, I think 2 or 3 years ago, and now he's already a certified sommelier, and he has never, taken an international flight.
Okay.
There is so much happening in the Indian wine industry. There's so much happening in the Indian hospitality industry. Our whiskeys are winning abroad, awards abroad. The gin from India is becoming so famous because gin has spices and herbs and all of those things, and we were a part of the spice route. So India actually showed everybody how spices and herbs are supposed to be utilized. So if we make gin, of course we are using the most essential and the best ingredients that the world ever could see, right? That's why India got captured by so many countries anyway.
True.
Right? So in terms of what India is doing now, be it in spirits, be it in even craft beers, or be it even in the mixology scene, there is no reason whatsoever to step out of the country. And that's what my idea was when I said internationalism, that this is a language that you can learn anywhere. India is just a part of that as well.
True. And how long does it take to complete or to be a certified sommelier?
See, certified sommelier is a control term which is, ruled by the Court of Master Sommelier.
Sure.
How good are you in terms of your studies? How quickly you gather the
all these
principles?
questions, we get it very often, so I had to clarify all the
No, definitely. So Sahil cracked it in the first go. I cracked it in my first go, but then there are guys who have come and won the sommelier champion as well, like a Prateek or even Atul for that matter, who went for the program. And they are champions, they've traveled abroad, they've gone scholarships and all that stuff, and they went and they had to take at least 2 trials or 3 trials to get it as well. Okay. So that is also, it's not just a course where you study and you go and you give the right answers and you get the certificate. They're looking for a lot of other things. They're looking for your personality. They're looking for how well you can handle situations.
True.
They might give you 20 glasses and ask you to pick any 6, and they might just say, at the base of the glass there was a spot of water. That it's about your flair as well. So unlike the theory programs, like the WSAT or the program that even we do, certified sommelier is a examination where bookish knowledge and your tasting skills are as important as your other personal skills as well.
True.
So I think that is something that comes with experience and just being in conditions that prepare you for that.
Sure.
I remember they asked me a question, name a armagnac-based liqueur which is colorless, flavorless, and has no sugar.
Okay.
I said, that's not the definition of liqueur. They said, yeah, it's a trick question. Your answer was, I'll check with my manager and let you know.
Okay. Is there a term called as wine entertainer? After every question, I can see Magandeep.
I'll put it this way, words like entertainer, celebrity, if you have to use them to describe someone, then they don't deserve that tag.
Okay.
So if you're not entertaining on the floor with the guests, then you're not an entertainer. So just be a sommelier. The entertainment has to always be there because you're part of the whole F&B show. So I don't think if you have to add the word entertainer to your name, then it's a problem for me at least.
So it's one of a quality or a qualification.
Yeah, it's a quality that others should confer upon you as a title, that I think that person is an entertaining person, that person's a celebrity, that person is. But if you say to yourself that I am very humble and I'm an entertainer and I'm a celebrity, then you are neither of those and none of those three. So yeah, so that's my take on it.
Okay, thank you. We have one question in the chat where a student has, can you, about the Young Sommelier Olympiad, if you could just elaborate on the same.
So what is going to happen is that we will open the registration for the Olympiad. So first of all, this is happening for the first time in the country. There's no program like this that exists, at least in India. I don't know about other parts of the world or Asia for that matter. So this is basically, trying to develop, beverage professionals a little younger rather than landing them into the realms of hospitality operations, where they do not get time to study and step out of the 16 hours, 17-hour shifts. So the idea is that anybody who registers for the Olympiad, they will be trained over 15 master classes. So these will be, let's say, master classes on beer, spirits, mixology, wines, or even glassware, which will not be taught by us. They will be taught by the people who are behind the brand. So let's say, if in case you were to say, why don't we talk about, Grover Vineyards? So somebody from the Grover family will come and teach the students. If we say, let's talk about Bira as a beer,
Yes.
maybe the owner, Ankur Jain, or the vice president of brewing, Thomas, might come and actually teach them. So we will not teach them. They will come and teach them. And of course, they will give you some sort of brand knowledge as well. So first of all, they will go through these master classes so that we know that we have taught them. And then there will be quizzes, which will be conducted by these 7, Indian Sommelier Champion winners.
Okay.
They will quiz them. From these quizzes, we will pick the top 15. Those top 15 will again go through, let's say, a big quiz with all the 7 ISC winners, Sahil, Magan sir, and I. And then the top 5 will be given a scholarship to study further, which will be taught by Magan and I. Also, these 5 will get an entry into the next year's Indian Sommelier Championship, where they will study for 3 days and then compete further. And the top 3 will be able to receive some cash award as well. 25,000, 20,000, 15,000, 10,000. I don't know the figures. Maths is not my strong point. But the point being that either they should be able to set off some bit of their hospitality fee, or they should be able to get some money to, let's say, travel to a distillery, travel to a brewery, travel to a winery, or do a course which enhances their skill as a professional. So the past winners, with their experiences, they will come and nurture them. They can be their sort of like elder brother or elder sisters in the industry, saying that, yeah, we are there whenever you need us, any assistance that you require. They will of course go further, learn further. We already have wineries and distilleries who have been throwing us showering us with the scholarships to actually travel to the winery, travel to the distillery, and work with the distiller for 2 days. Come to the winery, taste stuff, and be in the vineyards, and maybe make their own blend as well. So yeah, we never had all of those things, but the least we could do is just up the game where we have the position.
True.
So that's what the idea with YSO is.
Yeah.
But also the idea is that if they perform well, we should be able to nurture them a little more and put them in the Indian Sommelier Championship.
Perfect. Yeah.
Winner of the Indian Sommelier Championship now represents India in the World Sommelier Championship. So who knows, in 3 years, 4 years, you might be representing India.
Great.
We'll make sure that it is.
Sure. We are also getting some technical questions, but I believe that we keep these questions for our next webinar when we discuss more about the Indian wines. So, Kainos, if you have anything to add, or any questions to ask?
No, nothing from my side.
Okay,
Sure. So certainly just 2 things I wanted to mention. When I was studying my hotel management, there were no sommeliers in the country, and there was only one, the other bald gentleman that you can see on your screen, Magan sir. And I used to bug him with a lot of questions.
Yes.
And we, now being on the other side of it, we realized that it is important to ask questions. So what we have done is, I've already mentioned our email address and our phone number.
Perfect.
Please feel free to the students, to anybody that they know who want any sort of assistance in the hospitality industry or in the beverage scope. They can always mail us. We have our Instagram as well. As he was saying, we always, indulge in a little bit of history, storytelling. So every Wednesday we post a video
Yes.
of 52 drinks. Today we did that with Sidecar Cocktail, so they can ask us questions there. Even the information about the Young Sommelier Olympiad, Indian Sommelier Championship will be there on Instagram. And also for the students of ANJUMAN-I-ISLAM, what we guys are doing is we have sent the link for the program, but we are reducing the fee for the students for the institute. I'll send a mail and everything explaining how it can be done to Kainas, and if anybody wants to sign up, they can mail us and we guys will help them with that. Yeah.
With this, I would like to thank Mr. Magandeep Singh and Mr. Gagan Sharma for making an excellent presentation and making this seminar interesting and meaningful. I would like to thank Rukhsana Bilimoria and Chef Harish Suvarna. And I would like to thank all our staff members who made this webinar a grand success. Thank you. Thank you so much. And for sure, we will be coming back for a sequel of the webinar on 22nd of July, that is Wednesday again, next week at till day or to today. So with this, Kainas, can we?
Yes, thank you so much, all of you. Gagan, thank you so much.
Thank you, participants. Thank you so much for coming.
Okay, stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.